Good morning, guys. Quick little shop update. I only got about 3 things I want to share this morning. One of them is I'm going to throw some clips in of disassembling a forward-reverse gearbox on an Atlas 10-inch lathe. And I kind of talk about it a little bit. I'll have to go back through and see exactly what I said. But this was kind of in response to some of the flea-based stuff that's on there. There's a seller that I kind of trashed on a week ago in a Sunday edition of Flea Bay, and I'll try and remember and put the link in the description about which episode that was. I'll put it in this corner over here. And just way out of sight on price, way beyond what they should be, and I mean way beyond what they should be, and just garbage parts, just garbage. So anyway, I disassembled a 10-inch gearbox. It's a gearbox or forward-reverse box. It's a box that I bought, I don't know how long ago, several years probably. It was a used condition box, and it's one I've set up on my 10-inch turret lathe. Now, I've not hooked it up to a lead screw, I've not run it, and I don't know if I will on this particular lathe, because since it's a turret lathe, why, chances are I don't want threading capabilities or fine feed capabilities, so I may or may not use it here. But nonetheless, it shows a in used condition gearbox, and I consider it used. It's in, I think, pretty good condition, but it's not in excellent condition by any means. But this to me is what a used gearbox should look like that you can put on, and it shows disassembly and a quick reassembly again of how it goes together. They're pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and not worth nearly what they're asking, so you might find that informative a little bit. Alright, so we're looking at a standard 10-inch forward reverse gearbox, and let's disassemble it and see. Now, there's one of these handles he's got listed. I don't remember the price off the top of my head. Way too much. Like I say, we'll put them in here. This one's in relatively good condition. You know, there's not a whole lot that can go wrong on it. When you look at the one that he's selling, this back face looks like it's all askew, like it's worn on one side or the other. That's from coming out of a gearbox that's so well worn that it just wobbles around there, and it's worn this unevenly. So there's the knob there. Bear in mind, these are all used parts that we're showing you here. So these are used things. These are worn. You know, I consider this one to still be in pretty good condition. And when we look at he's got 2 of them, looks like from 2 different gearboxes. One is really bad compared to the other one, but they're both pieces of junk. You don't see a whole lot of wear down in these, and I'm not cleaning them up, I'm not doing anything. And the edges are fairly straight all along on both sides. You know, I would consider this in a good condition. So there's our intermediate gear, our drive gear there. Not unhappy with that. He's got and this is fairly tight in here, he's got some piece of crap homemade thing listed for about 25 bucks that somebody filed out by hand, and I would imagine that's where that handle came off of, because it didn't fit in the bore there and it just wallowed itself around. So anyway, that one's there again, relatively good condition. You know, make your own decisions as to what you think condition is and how they look, but I think these are good comparisons. These are used parts. So you know, there we go. That screw will come out of there. That will allow the gear and any shims that are in there to come out as well. Now this gear is still in really pretty good condition. You don't see any real big track marks. Now you do see a little bit of wear down through here. And this is pretty even all the way around. I probably should wash these up. We could have a little better view of them, but I don't think it's worth spending that much time on. But there's no real big track marks. There's no big hunks out. That one's got a little bit of a roll to it. But this, I don't consider this gear to be beat up bad. You know, it's in relatively good condition. So that's what we've got there. And then we pull out the main gear. And this is the first one that caught my attention. I think he was wanting like $225 or $250 for this gear. Now these gears, if you look around, they're worth calling clawsing to see, because from what I'm seeing, these are still available. And I'm even seeing a flea-based seller that's selling these gears a whole lot cheaper than he's asking for his used pieces of shit. So this one's same way, you know, I consider it in pretty good condition. But that's the way they look. These also have I believe this is a fiber washer on this side. Anyway, it's set on there pretty tight. I'm not going to force it off and take a chance on breaking it. Anyway, this is in, I consider, relatively good condition. This is one that, if and when I eventually set up a lead screw on the little Atlas 10-inch turret lathe here, which I don't know if I will or not, but this is one that I will run. You know, I'm not ashamed to run this gear. Anyway, that's what I'm looking for. Is I'm looking for no tracking marks, no big cracks, no chips. And one of the things you'll see on one of his, and his are all greasy and grimy, you'll see one that's got a ragged little chip around one side on one tooth, which is not going to last. You know, and he says these are in outstanding condition. One of his things I saw said it was put on a very lightly used lathe. Well, I said before, none of these are lightly used lathes. If they're off of a Atlas lathe or any of these little Atlas machines, they've been around for 40, 50 years, and they've all been run. I don't think I've ever seen one that is in excellent condition. I've never seen one that's been lightly used. This one, when I look at it, why it looks like there's got a fair amount of wear on this side. We've got a little step down here, and yet on this side it's pretty much flush. That's well worn, used, and abused, you know, and I look at the rest of this and I feel like it's in pretty good shape. So, pays your money, takes your chances, but don't be foolish with your money and buy junk like's being offered there. Another thing is, I've said I'm not a fan of 3D prints on all of our Atlas machines, but I do use a 3D printer to build some parts for prototyping for casting patterns and that type of thing. It's a quick and easy way for me to prototype a part or a process for a part if I'm building a pattern or something. It's a quick, inexpensive, and relatively easy way for me to do a proof of concept type of thing. So I use it for things like that. Now, one of the things that I do use on my little Noga cools, and we've talked about Noga cools before, we'll have we'll be doing some Fogbuster clones here real directly, but one of the things about the Nogas is the coolant tanks on them, they work on a venturi, so they're sucking out of some sort of a tank. Now, I tend to use, we drink a lot of Costco milk here, or a lot of milk, so a lot of it comes from Costco in their bigger jugs like this. And I've used these for coolant on some of these Noga cools, or on a couple of Noga cools in different applications, and I can mix coolant in them and that type of thing. The problem is if you do a cutout in the lid to put that siphon hose in, why it fills up with crap. You know, if you try and cut a notch in the original cap, it doesn't want to stay on there. It's too light and flexible. So what I came up with was a 3D printed cap for us to put in there. They go on quick and easy. Thread right on. You can run your hose in there and you don't get crap in them. So I'm trying them out. We'll see how well they hold up, which in reality, if they don't hold up, it's not a big deal. And then I've done just a solid cap, just if I'm storing something in, you know, want a little bit better cap to store those on. So might be a workable idea for you, you know, depending on what you're doing, how you're doing it. It can probably be done, well, it could be done with a regular milk jug lid, and I may do one of those because I've got a few of those floating around too. Anyway, the only other thing that I've got going on today, other than working on a few little projects and Hornady projects, is I've been working on my tooling for the turret setup on the on the Sheldon lathe. So these are the 1-inch shanks. I've shown these before, and I screwed up on these because I turned them out of one piece of steel originally, and when I got to looking at them in my haste to get them done, why, I had turned the shank on the wrong side. So it was. Now I've got a run of parts to run on the Sheldon lathe converted over to a turret lathe. Well, I needed a couple more tool holders, and what they are, let me grab a smaller Atlas one. These are basically the tools that I wanted. This is for the 3/4 inch tooling, which fits both the Atlas and the Logan lathe, both my turret lathes there. But I wanted the 1-inch shank tool in this configuration on the Sheldon, and I wanted a couple of these. So I got around and I've turned me a couple of blanks. We've got our holes through the center. So all that's left is to do the machining on the front end. So should have had these finished by now. We've got 2 of them made up. They're both identical. All this good stuff. The only problem is the offset's wrong. To be right with the hole in this place, this shank should have come out this side. So I screwed up 2 of them. So we've got some time wasted there. So one of my screw-ups in the shop. So what I'm going to end up and do is I'll just turn a couple more shanks. I'll take some 1-inch material, turn a couple of shanks rather than do it this way. We'll bore these for a press fit. We'll shove them in there and just cut this end off, and then we can go ahead and finish cutting our tooling. But anyway, big screw-up. Off 90 degrees instead of it being here, why it was. The shank would have been over here the way it was set up. Anyway, what I ended up and did is I bored them out and put an insert in, or put a new shank in that I've tack welded them in so far, and then we formed the rest of them. And they're very similar in design to this little one right here that we've done for the Atlas and the Logan lathe with 3/4 inch shank tooling. So anyway, virtually the same thing, a little bit bigger, a little bit different profile, and I've changed them a little bit, but I'm to the point now I've got to drill and tap them for 1/4 28 screws to lock the tool bit in, and we've got 2 holes to drill in each one. And I will probably, even though I'm not really planning it, I mainly want these as an outside turning tool, and very probably a roughing tool, or at least one of them will be a roughing tool. But I think while I've got them here, I am going to go ahead and drill the base of it for a set screw, so I can put a center drill in there if I choose to use them as a centering and a facing tool. So that's what's up next. So I'm going to go ahead, get those drilled and tapped, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish welding the base, which is more cosmetic than anything else. But we'll do those, and then it's just go to the belt sander and we'll just profile them out and give them some smooth edges and do it. And the way they'll set up is they'll have a tool bit sits in there just like that, and one of these tool blanks I can cut them in half and get I could probably get a little more than that, but we won't be greedy. We'll cut those in half and get 2 bits, so we'll have for both of these tools. Okay, we're putting logos on our little D-Hill stencil 2022 going on here. Now this is a toughie because this is I just trimmed this stencil down to be able to fit on here, so hopefully we can get this installed and get it to stay in place. Problem with these little things like this is once we cut these stencils down into little narrow pieces, it was a little bit bigger than this, why then it doesn't want to go on anything bigger, and they're kind of hard to tape in place because we lose the extra edge. But if you try and leave them too big, why, on an uneven surface like this, they're tough to get taped down. So we tape our little stencil in place. We're going to add a little more electrolyte to it. And my control module's up here, but I've shown this before. If somebody's got any questions, why give a yell about it and we'll go back and look at it again. And I apply this several times. I'll probably about 4 times of doing this, and it'll just etch its way on through, hopefully. You want to pull them off and let them breathe in between. Getting that burned in pretty good, but we may need a little more electrolyte on here. Problem is, if you try and burn these in too deep, why then it etches down underneath a little bit and it starts getting a little bit fuzzy. So you kind of have to judge each one just on how it seems to be burning and what your experience with the stencil is. This is a new stencil, so this should be about right. We're doing if I'm marking a barrel for a customer or something, as I have in the past, which is why I originally bought this little machine, well, I have to be a little bit more careful. But tooling like this, it's not that important. This is for me. Let's do one more, and we'll call it good. And we're going to call that good right there. I got one more of these to do. And I like to spray these with neutralizer, just about like that. And I will normally take a little bit of Scotch-Brite of one sort or another. And it comes out looking just like that. So these will go through the bluing tanks. I am going to go ahead and finish putting the screws in them, and I'll probably go ahead and run this first run of parts because I've got this, and I've got two of these to do, and then I've got this die holder that I did, and I've etched it too already. It was the first one that I did. So it came out pretty good. I'm really happy with those. These I don't worry too much. I like to round the edges and smooth them up just so I don't have any sharp edges. You know, it's not, sometimes they look a little bit nicer when they're left crisper, but there's enough other things to reach out and grab you and cut your hands and your fingers and everything. So I tend to radius them around. So. And this is going to be the last one here. See if we can't get it set up and done real quick while we're here doing our thing. Maybe that'll hold the position long enough to get this one done. to hit this about probably 4 times. And you can turn the amperage up and you can turn the duration up for how long it etches. This is a fairly advanced machine here. There's entry-level machines that are quite a bit less expensive and don't give quite as aggressive results as this. The problem if you turn them up too hot is you burn your stencils up. And none of my stencils need to be that long lasting, but like these 22 or these logo stencils that have got 2022 on them, I'd like them to last the whole year without me having to make a new stencil, which isn't that big a deal, but nonetheless, if I can get by with what I've got, why, so much the better. But you can run the intensity up on these enough to where you can actually see them bubbling along the edge, but it cooks your stencil off pretty good. One more, just because we can.
Staying healthy isn't easy. Watching your diet, hitting the gym, avoiding stress. But a good night's rest helps boost your overall health and wellness. And it couldn't be easier.
There we go. That should be good.
Effortlessly adjusts and responds to both of you. The result? You wake up ready for anything. Proven quality sleep is life-changing sleep. And now during the ultimate Sleep Number event, save 50% on the Sleep Number 360 limited edition smart bed plus special financing only for limited time.
I'll take this stencil in and rinse it out, and then let it dry, and I tuck them away so that they're ready for next use. There's a setting on here that you can flip just to give you a black mark, which if you flip them over and then hit the black mark, why, it'll fill that where it's etched with black, and kind of sets down in there. But since I run these through the bluing tanks anyway, why, there's no sense in doing that. Anyway, other than to blue them, these tools are pretty much done. The advantage to going ahead and running them, I still have to put the pins in, and then it's just the 2 set screws or 3 set screws. The advantage of running them before I blue them, is that if I have clearance issues or something, need to ground off these corners more, or there's something that way why I can do it and it doesn't affect the bluing. Hey guys, well, casting day this afternoon, and some success, some not success. I did another batch of flask hardware for match plate hardware, just because I did the first or the last run of these I did with a 1/2 inch bore. I'll do these with a 5/8 bore through the pin, because I've got some of these bigger flasks that are 5/8 rather than half. So rather than mess around and open up the ones I've got or monkey around with them, I'll just do another, 10 I think, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, another 12. So anyway, those came out fine. The other main casting was the, I don't have the pattern in here, was the guard for on the Atlas tool post grinder. And I did 2 of them, and both of them were failures. One of them, this one was done in a smaller flask that was really not big enough to be doing it, and I thought I'd try it out. And I got a lot of flashing on both of these. I wanted a we're prototyping these patterns, or this pattern, so I expect there to be a little bit of modifications along the way. I had an awful lot of tear out on both of these for around the edges. They would have cleaned up, but more work than I wanted to do to clean them up. But anyway, I wanted to cast them, see how I wanted to gate them, and vent them and all that good stuff. And this one shorted. They both shorted, but this one shorted pretty bad. And like I say, this was in a smaller flask, so we use that as a learning experience. I know mainly where I need to do it. The other one almost filled, and I got one little hole right in the top of it there. So that'll be a failure on that one too. Otherwise, it'd be usable. Like I say, a lot of cleanup on these, more than I want to do on production parts. but this one would have actually cleaned up had it filled the rest of the way. So what I've done is I've already made some adjustments to the patterns, and I'm going to gate them a little bit differently, and we'll vent them a little bit more. And by tomorrow we'll have at least one good casting out, and I would imagine by the time you see this video, well, they'll probably either already be loaded on the Atlas Machine Shop website, or they will be loaded there very shortly. There won't be pictures up yet probably, but because I won't have them painted up, but I'll have stuff ready to go by probably the beginning of next week. So anyway, that's the update for the day. I've got the other clips that I've already shown you, and this is going to end it out. Hopefully you have a good day. Comment suggestions, leave in the comment section for me below. And as always, thanks for taking the time to watch, guys.